Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling the 100% rule, principles of labor-hour scheduling. It is one of the most fundamental yet surprisingly contentious challenges in maintenance and plant management. If you manage a team, coordinate projects, or oversee operations, you know firsthand that figuring out exactly how much work to assign your crew is a constant everyday balancing act. Do you push them to the absolute limit, or do you hold a little bit back just in case things go wrong?
So, let me ask you a question. If your team has exactly 1,000 hours of available labor next week, how many hours of work should you actually put on the schedule? I mean, it sounds like simple math, right? But believe it or not, this one little question cracks wide open some entirely different philosophies on management, productivity, and how we actually plan our days.
Okay, let's dive right into this and look at the two most common extremes you see out in the wild. First up, overscheduling. Let's call it 120%. You've got your 1,000 labor hours, but you load up 1,200 hours of work. Now the upside? Sure, it's ambitious. You're setting a high bar, and you've always got backup work just in case operations can't release a piece of equipment. But the downside is pretty brutal. Coordinating with other crafts and operators becomes literally impossible, mostly because, well, nobody actually believes everything on the schedule is going to get done anyway. Then, on the flip side, you have underscheduling. Let's say 80%. You're scheduling 800 hours of work for those same 1,000 hours of labor. The thought process here is usually, hey, we're leaving a buffer for emergencies. But here's the huge catch. We are trying to eliminate emergencies, not plan for them. By scheduling this way, you're essentially creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your crew finishes less work, which means less preventative maintenance happens, which, you guessed it, naturally leads to way more emergencies. It can even tempt folks to invent false emergencies just because they know there's unscheduled labor hanging around.
Now, what's really fascinating about all this is the massive measurement problem it creates. As managers, our job is to measure actual performance against a baseline, right? But if you underschedule, how on earth do you manage that? If you give a 1,000-hour crew just 800 hours of work and they knock out exactly 800 hours, you can't be mad at them. They did exactly what you asked. And honestly, the same goes for overscheduling. If they only finish 1,100 out of 1,200 scheduled hours, you can't really complain because they still worked 100 hours over their base capacity. Both of these extremes completely destroy your ability to accurately measure and therefore manage your team's performance.
So, what does this all mean? Well, it points us directly to the optimal solution, the Goldilocks zone, if you will. 100%. You schedule exactly 100%, not a drop more, not a drop less. If you have 1,000 forecasted labor hours, you schedule exactly 1,000 hours of work.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core of scheduling principle number 4, schedule for every work hour available. Literally 100%, not 120, not 80. By doing this, you're creating a goal that is both understandable and highly reasonable, something management can actually look the team in the eye and confidently justify.
Let's break down exactly why 100% is the undisputed winner here. You know, in management theory, a goal that's set way too high just gets ignored, and a goal set way too low doesn't push anyone. But 100%? It sets a clear, totally defensible standard. It gives management a real baseline to measure against. But I know what you're probably thinking right now. What about emergencies? Well, time and experience show us that a 100% schedule naturally contains lower priority jobs. These are jobs that can easily be interrupted if a true unavoidable emergency actually hits. You don't need to leave giant blank spaces on the schedule to handle the unexpected, you just pivot away from the interruptible work. And this approach, it absolutely maximizes your overall plant productivity.
All right, let's move to our next core concept and see how this all builds together. The paradigm shift, skills mismatch. So, we've solved the total hours problem, but now we hit a totally different hurdle. Look, if you're running a massive new construction project and you need exactly 20 welders and 20 helpers, you just go out and hire exactly that. Simple. But in day-to-day maintenance, the specific work your plant desperately needs this week almost never perfectly lines up with the exact mix of skills on your standing crew.
And that brings us to the second half of Principle 4, working persons down. Now, what does that mean? It's the practice of assigning your available, higher-skilled technicians to complete higher priority but lower-skilled work when their main specialty isn't needed. I know, at first glance, it sounds totally counterintuitive. Why on earth would you pay a premium rate for someone to do basic, helper-level work? But as you'll see in a second, this is how you guarantee that the most critical, profitable work for the plant actually gets done.
Just take a look at how this flows. We've got our resource forecast showing 100 hours of skilled machinists available. But when we compare that to the planned backlog, things get interesting. We have 100 hours of high-priority helper work and 100 hours of low-priority skilled machinist work. So what happens? The skilled machinists actually completely bypass that low-priority work in their own trade, and instead, they get assigned straight to the high-priority helper work. They are working down. And why? Because it ensures they're tackling the work that is hands down the most crucial and profitable for the plant's immediate success.
Seriously, think about the alternative for a second. It is absolutely absurd. Would a company really let vital, high-priority helper work just sit and rot in the backlog, while highly skilled machinists literally sit around in the break room just because there isn't any machinist work for them to do? You'd think, no way, right? But surprisingly, yes. In fact, the rigid automated logic of a lot of computerized maintenance management systems, your CMMS, will do exactly this if you aren't paying attention. You absolutely have to build flexibility into your work agreements so your team can actually tackle what the plant needs right now.
So, bringing this all together, it's pretty awesome to see how these 4 core scheduling principles interlock to solve the whole puzzle. 1. Backlog work is planned by the lowest acceptable skill level. 2. That backlog is strictly ordered by priority and importance to the plant. 3. Resources are forecasted by the highest skill level you have available. And finally, number 4. You schedule exactly 100% of those available hours, and you work your highly skilled folks down so you can knock out the highest priority jobs first, regardless of the skill required. Now, you might be sitting there wondering, okay, but is my highly skilled crew going to revolt if I ask them to do helper work? Well, the day-to-day reality out in the field is that craftspersons rarely hold a grudge about working outside their main specialty, as long as it's obviously in the best interest of the plant. But, and this is a big but, it's a very delicate trust. It only works if management doesn't abuse the priority system. For instance, if you tell a first-class electrician to go be a mechanic's helper for some totally unimportant low-priority job, while vital electrical work is just sitting in the backlog, yeah, that's going to cause instant resentment. The whole system completely relies on the work genuinely being high priority.
And there's one more safety net here. This 100% scheduling rule, it's really a methodology for the planning office to allocate the week. But the ultimate safeguard on the ground is the crew supervisor. Because let's be real, out in the real world, jobs inevitably run over or under their estimated times. It's the supervisor who makes the actual daily assignments from that weekly allocation. They're the ones smoothing out the practical bumps in the road. On most days, they probably won't even need to assign people outside their normal crafts. But they have the structural freedom to do exactly that when the schedule demands it.
Ultimately, it all comes down to a massive shift in mindset. Look at your own operations this week and ask yourself this. Are you scheduling for the productivity and the vital work you actually want to achieve? Or are you just leaving blank spaces on your schedule for the emergencies you fear? By embracing the 100% rule and leaning into the flexibility of working persons down, you stop hiding from the unknown and you start taking total control of your plant's true potential. Think about it. How can you apply these principles to your own team's schedule tomorrow?